Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, our online TV program where we get to have conversations with people and organizations who are impacting lives positively. This is me, Kemi Akiyode-Afolabi, aka Mama K. And in today's program, as we continue to celebrate our Independence Month for October, we will be covering and sharing the conversations I had with two amazing, intellectual, selfless gentleman and gentle lady. Don't mind my voice there. It's a bit cocky. I've lost it. I don't know what has happened, but it's all good. I hope you can still hear me. So yes, we've got Dr. Babatunde Omotowa, who is an international oil and gas executive, and he works across Nigeria, Europe and Africa as a continent as well, popularly known as Dr. Babs. And then my own very dear sister, yes, she is my sister, Dr. Abiola Akiyode-Afolabi, who is a human rights lawyer and as well the founder and executive director for, I need to tell you this so I don't get the name wrong, Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, popularly known as WARDC in Nigeria. So enjoy. What has been some of the challenges, for you? Because I'm sure that's one of it, and some of the risks you've taken over the years. And how have you managed them?
Indeed. So, I think, as you rightly said, Mama K, the family challenges was, for me, the most challenging because, as you can imagine, it's emotional. It's the core of us as human beings, our family. And being away from my children, especially in their grown-up years, was quite challenging because what you don't want is that your children grow up and they don't know you very well. And when you then grow up, you really start to struggle to make a connection with them. And so for me, I needed to prioritize that at some point, and I did that. But of course, there were other challenges even at work as well, because you have to take risks in a number of things, and one of them was I think while I was the vice president for Shell in Sub-Saharan Africa, I was looking after many areas. One of which was logistics. We had our helicopter operations was one of them. We take helicopters to our locations, and this could be offshore or onshore. For about 40, 50 years till then, these services were provided by an international foreign player. And of course, it became a monopoly. They became quite, very, they were just take it or leave it type things that they told us then. So, but when I got to the role, I told, we should have local players who should be able to also provide this support. So we started working with my team, and we identified some local players. We told them what our standards were and gave them a roadmap to what they needed to do to meet that. Two of them worked very, very hard. Really partnered with others, learned quite a lot, and at some point they became credible. We evaluated them along with our head office in Europe, and they were qualified to participate in the tender. We did that tender, and they came out the most commercially competitive because, of course, the foreign players were already, very monopolistic. So at this point, there was then prepared to award the contract to a local company for the first time in 50 years, and helicopter is a safety safety critical area. And so my boss, an expatriate, called me to his office just before I made that award and said, "Are you really sure about what you're doing?" And said, "Well, we have evaluated them. They are good. We brought our head office to evaluate them. They passed them, so they are commercially the best. So we go ahead." And he said, "Well, if there's any accident, you will, that will be the end of your career. I'm sure you know that." And I said, yeah, I'm sure, but we have done due diligence. So you need to be able to take a risk and prepare to take the risk. He says, really think it through. So I said, well, the only thing I will add is that apart from awarding to them, I will want Shell to also loan them $85 million. And he thought, are you crazy? Why would we loan them money? But I said, they have to they should buy new aircraft. They are trying to hire aircraft. I think that's the risk that I can see.
And this is something not normally done, because you just give them the Yeah, but you are now asking for a loan for them to be able to. Okay.
Yes. And no such loan had ever been granted to a
No.
local company. It's unheard of. But I said, we needed to do that, and so I pursued that with the head office in Holland, and I succeeded in getting that. And so we loaned this company. We awarded the contract. We paid the company the $85 million, and this was now then hopefully they perform. But I was confident that we had done enough work, and the company went on to perform well. They've done about 12 years now, even way long after I left.
And did they return the loan? Did they return the loan?
They repaid the loan. All of that was repaid. It was an interest-free loan, so that was also part of it. So they repaid all of it, and they grew to become even not just a supplier of helicopters to Shell, but to other international oil companies, and even started to supply helicopters outside Nigeria. And today they have a maintenance capacity for the whole of West Africa. So they've really grown, and I'm happy we were able to grow a local company in a very challenging area. But indeed, it was a risk that we had to take at that time. But I think when you take calculated risk and you have evaluated, you have done due diligence, then you need to, if you see any area of risk, then you need to see how you manage it, which was what I did with the 85 million loan. But you need to be courageous. Otherwise, if you are not courageous, then you make no difference. And if you cannot make a difference, then you won't make an impact on the long run. So I would say that was one of the challenge risk that I faced, and there are a few others that
I'm sure there would have been many. You know what? We'll stop for a quick break. I'll be right back. We'll be right back. Wow, Dr. Babs Omotowa, what a legend. I need to call you a legend because that's definitely, what you are. And I know you're an author, as well. So let's talk now about some of the life lessons, because you're a leader that has done so much and is still doing so much, and we could really benefit from you. So in terms of the book that you've written, which is called From Storeroom to Boardroom, I'm sure, that book already is becoming an award-winning book. And at the same time, we have life lessons, that we've basically learned, over the years that you want to share with us. So do you want to share with us?
No, indeed. Thank you very much, Mama K. And indeed, the book that you mentioned, From Storeroom to the Boardroom, is really a book about my life lessons, really. And it tells a lot about my stories, various things that happened through my life, through my career, and it draws out the lessons that I picked up. And it was written mainly to provide insight for both young people, leaders at various levels, about things that they should learn from some of my failures as well as successes, and hopefully as they learn from that, they will be able to navigate life a lot better, and I hope they will be able to even reach higher heights than I did using some of those lessons. And I wrote it also because I thought in Africa we don't have many business leaders writing books, and if you only read books written by what I'll call people from developed countries, you may not reflect well on some of the challenges that developing countries create. So that, I think, was it. But in terms of your question on life lessons, there are very many, but I'll share just probably two. And one of it, I think I've touched on a lot, which is, you should have core values of what you stand for, because life will throw you a lot of things in your journey of life. And if you do not have how you calibrate what your responses are in life, in terms of what it throws to you, you may find yourself in some very awful places in a number of times. In my case, things like honesty, courage, perseverance were some of my core values. And what you also find with having core values is that over time, you become known by those core values. And if there's one thing that I learned through my career is that many times in your career, you will not be in the room when decisions are being taken that will have to do with you. One of the main things that will speak for you when you are not there is what your core values are, what you are known for. And if you are known for the right things, they will speak for you even when you are not in the room. And it could be the reason why a lot of things will come your way. So I would say to you, a lot of the senior roles I was given, a lot of the things that I accomplished, a lot of it came from just what I was known for and some of my core values.
So now let's go on to your organization, the WARDC. Tell us what you started it, when it was started, why it was started, and what you do in the organization, and anything else you want to share. Success story, one success story, and any challenge you've had, and how you've managed, to overcome some of the challenges. I'm sure you've had loads, but just pick one for us.
Yeah. Okay. The Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, WARDC, started in the year 2000. Now, when I was describing my sojourn, I talked about being at the University of Notre Dame. One of the requirements at the University of Notre Dame is that when you finish, you're expected to go and have an internship with program with one of the institutions anywhere around the world. So I selected International League for Human Rights. So I was there, and they work around the issue of journalism, supporting journalists to escape dissidents, militaristic experiences and all of that. So, but when I got there, I wanted to work around the issue of women. So I started telling them that we should do something with respect to women. So that was not their area of focus. Now, something happened in Nigeria. Nigeria has started off Sharia. They introduced Sharia. Nigeria is basically 50-50 Islamic and Christian. So, but the Islamic states
and traditional before the traditional people,
yes. So the northern states, the northern states decided to introduce 18 other states decided to introduce the Sharia penal code, meaning that Sharia then will be governing the personal life of people, which was now beyond the personal life. Now it becomes like another criminal code, And so there was this case of a lady who was alleged to have committed adultery. Her name was Safia, and that they gave a judgment that the lady should be stoned to death. And because of that, I felt there was a need for us to investigate whether they have the capacity to introduce Sharia penal code in Nigeria. So I tried to sell that idea to the International League for Human Rights, and they bought the idea. So we did a proposal, and we sent to foundation. And Ford Foundation approved the proposal. So the proposal was to look at women's rights within the context of Sharia in Nigeria, and to build like a campaign around the fact that that lady was to be stoned to death.
Right.
And so that was how I started. So I started with campaigning that Shafia must not die, you know, because adultery, yes, they said she committed adultery. You can't commit adultery alone, you know. So it shouldn't be the woman that should suffer for the, you know, act of the husband, the adulterer, and you know, and all that. So we started that campaign. So it was tagged Safia must not die, and so that was how WARDC started. So it was on that basis. So we started challenging the issue of constitution. We started supporting women, legal hate issues. We started supporting children, working around issue of democracy and political participation. So today we have a lot of intervention that we've made in the country with respect to the issue of women's rights. Today we have about 13 states across Nigeria that signed the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, which supports the rights of women against violence, child abuse, domestic violence, widowhood practices, female genital mutilation, and all sorts of abuses. And we worked with organizations across Nigeria to ensure that about 31 states in Nigeria, the most exciting one for me is getting the northeastern state where there is conflict, where there is insurgency, where there is serious religious bias, you know, get, you know, male-dominated state house of assemblies to agree with us, you know, to pass those laws. And that was what we did all through the COVID time. And for me, that was my story of COVID, you know, because we got the opportunity, we got that opportunity that we can get those laws passed during that period. And I didn't want us to miss that period. So we went to the northern part of Nigeria when there was that danger of COVID. And I got COVID through that, you know, engagement. I'm happy today that the 6 states in northern Nigeria, the northeast Nigeria, passed that law.
Wow. Well done.
You know, despite the threat that we even had, you know, to our life. So those were some of the interventions that we have made over time. We have instituted what they call the Women in Parliament Summit. The Women in Parliament Summit is support women who are in parliament. You know, the way the media portray, you know, women, even if you are in parliament, even if you are in high places, it's always a challenge. They look at you, it's some form of sex objectification. So they will tell us about how beautiful they were, how well dressed they were, rather than telling us about the intervention that those women are making.
What they're doing.
Parliament. So we instituted the Women in Parliament Summit with the Women in Parliament Committee of the National Assembly. And what they do is to put together on yearly basis efforts that women have made in their different constituencies as a way of portraying the better side of women, rather than their looks and you know, other things. So today we have that as an institute. It's something that has become a yearly affair, like an annual event to bring women in parliament together. We have also done cases for over 5,000 indigent women across Nigeria. We have won some of those cases, and one of the most interesting cases was the case of sexual harassment, which led to the conviction, 2 years conviction for a professor that has served the university for 40 years, but who has a practice and pattern of sexually harassing students and exploiting them. Professor Akiyode of Abiola University, and it was a very highly celebrated case where he was sent to jail for the first time for sexual harassment in Nigeria. We have also won cases at the regional level at the ECOWAS court, a case of a police officer that poured hot soup on his wife and mutilated the wife. You know, we went, Nigerian police refused to prosecute the police officer because they thought it was against the police institution. So and they said there was no case for him to answer. So we took them to ECOWAS court. ECOWAS court asked Nigeria to pay 100 million as compensation to the woman for Nigeria failure, you know, to take this step, you know, to address the case of Mary Sunday. So these are some of the cases that we have done. We run a shelter. We run a full shelter, you know, based in Ogun State, where we support women. So we have had over 200 women pass through that shelter.
On different social issues, from women, gender-based violence, disability, a lot. So which one, or any one maybe that we're not even aware of, that you want to pick on, that you're passionate, you know, about, or that you would like to see changes on, And what are the solutions? Even if they're possible or not possible, you know. So I just want to hear that from you for Nigeria or Africa as a whole.
Okay, I think my internet went off. I didn't
Oh,
get
your internet went off. Okay, network. Okay, so I'm asking I know you're passionate and into disability, gender-based violence, women issues, human rights issues. But I'm thinking there must be something else that you're maybe passionate about that you would like to see, some kind of solutions to. But I rather want you to share your own solution to it. So just one item out of anything.
Okay. Well, I'm very passionate about decision making, not only in politics, but to permit in all spheres of life. I want to see more women, leading organizations. Even if you look at university, there are female lecturers, but you rarely find them, as vice chancellors, the deputy vice chancellors, so it's really not there. So I want to see more women, even young girls, leading their schools, becoming captains of class, and becoming, a student union president. You find very few women. So I want to see more women, in that position, because once they are in that position, they can become model, for other people. Because I know that one thing that is clear is when women begin to rule, things will be better for Africa. So so it's important, to get women, to that level of rulership, to be able to change the face of Africa, to be able to change the face of Nigeria, and to be able to change the face of the world.
So how else do you think we can do that? Because part of what you're doing is that, I believe, and I know you mentor people, young girls and a lot of other people publicly and secretly and beyond. So how else can we do that? How else can we help young girls, young women into decision making, into leadership? What else? What more can we do?
I think it's important for us to, like in the university, we have what we call the Purple Club, which is like, so we need to form clubs. We started off being in clubs, being in literary and debating society. We go to the university. We're in small society that can empower you. A lot of young people don't read. I think it's important that we read beyond, what we are taught in class. So we need to have book clubs, open libraries for people. There are a lot of things going on online. Some are beneficial to young people, some are not. People end up spending the whole day playing games and things like that. I think we need to do more, encourage young people to do more than that, to also speak out. If you notice now, not speaking out is also affecting that generation. So we need to teach them to speak out their mind, to voice their mind. If they're not satisfied with something, they should not be afraid, to say, because the reason why we got to where we are is also because we were afraid, to say a lot of things out. So we need to also mentor young people. We need to have role models, we need to have like a conglomerate of role models, which I think Impact Africa can do. Bring them together, link them up with young people, and get them to model, to mentor them for a period of time,
Afolabi, what? Wow. I am so humbled with these two amazing, extraordinary, selfless Nigerians who are doing so much, not just for Nigeria, but Africa as a continent and the world at large. I was just so blessed, having that conversation with them. You heard how Dr. Babs shared his challenges, while growing up, with his family, where he didn't have time for his children, but he decided to retire early. And as well, the life of him with his book, which is doing very, very well. We will share the details of the book from Storeroom to Boardroom. What an amazing journey he had. So you need to get a copy of that book. We will share the details, as well at the end. That allowed him, like he said, to navigate life lessons. And yes, Dr. Akiyode-Afolabi, my own very sister. She is my sister. And I just have so much respect for her. What she's doing with our women in terms of gender-based violence, our children, and just fighting for anybody, the needy, the disabled, the women, the widow, the orphans. Wow. And like she said in there, all she wants is to see our women empowered and for them to be successful. So I hope you've been blessed, and I hope you've learned one or two things. Kudos, to all our Nigerian ambassadors who are doing so much, out with Nigerians, and even the ones in Nigeria. So yes, most of the time what we hear sometimes is the negative, but we have a lot of people doing positive things, extraordinary things, especially Nigerians, be it in Europe, be it in America, be it in other parts of Africa, be it in South America. I could go on and on. I salute you all, as they say, Thank you, all the Nigerians, for all you're doing. Thank you. And I salute our featured guest today. Thank you for allowing me to hear your story, and for allowing us all as well to hear all your amazing story. And I hope it has blessed somebody, especially our young Africans who are coming up, be it in South Africa, Nigeria, Malawi, wherever you are. Thank you, and kudos, to everybody doing what they know best. Well, till next time, that's all we've got time for today. This is Mama K signing off. Remember, God is love. Take care of yourself. Love you all.